Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Boss Economics World, the only show that takes the dismal science of economics and turns it into a roller coaster of satire, sarcasm, and, dare I say, sizzling economic truth bombs. I'm your host, the one, the only, the guy who's been banned from 3 central banks for asking too many questions, yours truly, the boss economist. Today, we're diving headfirst into the economic dumpster fire that is June 2025, where inflation is creeping up, tariffs are slapping consumers in the face, and the Federal Reserve is sitting on its hands like a kid who forgot his lines in the school play. Buckle up, folks, this is gonna be a wild ride. Alright, let's break this down for the regular Joes and Janes out there, and yes, even you fancy pants finance pros sipping your oat milk lattes in the back. The big news this week is that US consumers, after months of dodging the inflation bullet, are finally getting hit with a little price growth. According to the Bloomberg survey of economists, because apparently, we need a survey to tell us what's obvious, prices of goods and services, excluding the wildcards of food and energy, rose by 0.3% in June 2025. That's the biggest jump in 5 months, folks. Compare that to May 2025, when the so-called core consumer price index barely crawled up by 0.1%. And on an annual basis? Oh, buckle up, because we're talking 2.9%, the first acceleration since January 2025. Cue the dramatic music. Now, before you start panic buying canned goods and gold bars, let's zoom out and look at the point, the tiny little spark that's lighting this inflationary fire, and then zoom all the way to the surface, the big, messy economic picture that's got everyone from Wall Street to Main Street sweating bullets. Spoiler alert, it's all about tariffs, baby. Those pesky import duties that politicians love to slap on foreign goods to protect us, but somehow always end up costing us more. Shocker, right? Let's start at the point, the root of this inflationary evil. Companies are finally starting to pass along the higher costs of imported merchandise, thanks to, you guessed it, tariffs. For those of you who've been living under a rock, tariffs are basically taxes on imported goods, designed to make foreign stuff more expensive so we'll buy American. Sounds great in theory, right? Except, plot twist, American companies don't just eat those extra costs out of the goodness of their hearts. Oh no, they pass them right along to you, the consumer. And according to the latest data, that pass-through is starting to show up in the June 2025 numbers. Prices are creeping up, and it's not because your local barista decided to charge $10 for a cappuccino, it's because the cost of imported goods, from electronics to clothing, is getting jacked up by these trade barriers. Now, let's get nerdy for a second, because I know my finance pros out there love a good stat. According to a 2024 study by the Peterson Institute for International Economics, tariffs imposed during the US-China trade war added an estimated $40 billion annually to US consumer costs. Fast forward to 2025, and with new rounds of tariffs hitting everything from European cars to Asian tech, the National Retail Federation estimates that American households could see an additional $78 billion in costs over the next year if these policies continue. That's right, folks, $78 billion. That's enough to buy every American a lifetime supply of avocado toast, but instead, it's going straight into higher prices for your sneakers, your smartphones, and your smart fridges. And don't even get me started on the ripple effects, higher input costs for manufacturers mean higher prices for everything down the line. It's like a bad game of economic dominoes. But wait, there's more. Let's zoom out to the surface, the big, chaotic economic picture where tariffs are just one piece of the puzzle. Because, folks, this isn't just about paying an extra buck for your imported jeans. Oh no, this is about inflation, consumer spending, the job market, and, drumroll, please, the Federal Reserve's eternal game of, should we or shouldn't we, when it comes to interest rates. It's like watching a soap opera, except instead of secret twins and evil exes, it's all about core CPI, retail sales, and Fed Governor Christopher Waller's latest speech. Riveting stuff, I know. First up, inflation. Now, the June 2025 numbers show a little more pass-through from tariffs, but economists, those crystal ball gazers, expect inflation to keep picking up as the year goes on. Why? Because tariffs aren't going anywhere, and neither are the higher costs they bring. But here's the kicker, merchants are scared to death of raising prices too much. Why? Because you, the American consumer, are tightening your belt faster than a contestant on The Biggest Loser. Retail sales figures, due out Thursday, are expected to show only a modest increase in June 2025 after 2 months of declines. Translation. You're not spending like you used to, and it's not hard to see why. The job market is cooling faster than a popsicle in a blizzard, with the unemployment rate ticking up to 4.2% in June 2025, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's the highest since late 2023, folks, and it's got people clutching their wallets like life preservers on the Titanic. Now, let's talk about the Federal Reserve, because oh boy, are they in a pickle. On one hand, they see inflation creeping up, 2.9% annually, remember, and they're worried that tariffs will push it even higher. On the other hand, the economy is slowing down, consumer demand is shifting into low gear, and the labor market is starting to look like a sad trombone. So, what do? Do they lower interest rates to juice the economy, risking even more inflation? Or do they keep rates high to fight inflation, risking a full-blown recession? Decisions. And guess what, folks, they're not deciding anything just yet. The Fed's next meeting is July 29, 30, 2025, and if their recent track record is any indication, they'll probably just sit there, sipping coffee, and release a statement so vague it could double as a horoscope. Economic conditions are evolving, and we remain vigilant. Thanks, Fed, super helpful. And speaking of the Fed, keep an eye out for their beige book, dropping Wednesday, July 16, 2025. This little gem is a compilation of anecdotes about regional economies, and it's basically the Fed's way of saying, we have no idea what's going on, so we asked around. Spoiler alert, it's probably going to show a mixed bag, some regions feeling the tariff pinch, others slowing down as consumers pull back. Oh, and don't miss the parade of Fed speakers this week, including Governors Christopher Waller, Adriana Kugler, and Lisa Cook. I'm sure they'll have plenty of jargon-filled platitudes to share. Stay tuned, folks, because here at Boss Economics World, we'll be translating their gobbledygook into plain English. But wait, there's more. Because this isn't just a US problem, oh no. Let's take a quick trip north to Canada, where the Bank of Canada is also sweating bullets over inflation. Their core measures have been accelerating in recent months, though they cooled slightly to 3% in May 2025, according to Statistics Canada. Sound familiar? That's right, folks, central banks around the world are playing the same game of inflation whack-a-mole, and tariffs are making it harder. The Bank of Canada's next rate decision is July 30, 2025, and they're watching those core measures like hawks. Will they cut rates to boost growth, or hold steady to fight inflation? Place your bets now. And don't forget the rest of the world. This week, we've got the group of 20 finance ministers meeting in South Africa, where I'm sure they'll spend plenty of time arguing over trade policies and tariffs. Meanwhile, consumer price data from Japan and the UK will give us a glimpse into how inflation is playing out globally, and British policymakers are set to deliver some key speeches. Spoiler alert, it's probably going to be a lot of hand-wringing and not a lot of solutions. Because, folks, that's the beauty of economics, everyone knows there's a problem, but no one knows how to fix it without breaking something else. So, what's the takeaway from all this, folks? Let's recap. Tariffs are jacking up prices, inflation is creeping up, consumers are spending less, the job market is cooling, and the Federal Reserve is stuck in a game of economic chicken. Oh, and the rest of the world is dealing with the same mess, just with different accents. It's like a global economic soap opera, and we're all just along for the ride. But hey, at least here at Boss Economics World, we're not afraid to call it like it is. Tariffs might sound like a great way to protect the economy, but in reality, they're just a fancy way of taxing you, the consumer, while politicians pat themselves on the back. And the Fed? Well, let's just say they're about as decisive as a squirrel crossing the road. So, what can you do about it? Well, for starters, keep watching Boss Economics World, because we'll be here every week, breaking down the madness with a healthy dose of satire and sarcasm. And hey, maybe write your congressperson and ask why you're paying more for your sneakers so they can score political points. Until next time, folks, keep your wallets close and your skepticism closer. This is the Boss Economist, signing off.